July 13th, 2011. Coronado, California. Inside one of the most luxurious mansions on the West Coast, a shocking discovery was made. On a second-story balcony was 32-year-old Rebecca Zahau. She was found in a deeply disturbing condition, her dignity stripped away, her form swaying in the morning breeze. The official explanation came swiftly: tragedy by her own hand. Authorities claimed Rebecca had ended her life after a heartbreaking accident involving her boyfriend's young son days earlier. But almost immediately, questions flooded in. Why were her hands and feet restrained? Why was she silenced? Why were strange words scrawled on the door in black paint? To some, it was the clearest case of wrongdoing imaginable. To others, a complex act of despair. This is the story of Rebecca Zahau, a case where luxury and tragedy collided, and where every answer only seemed to lead to more questions. A puzzle where each detail is stranger than the last. Before we begin, please note, this video is created for educational and documentary purposes only. The creator is not responsible for any actions, consequences, or damages resulting from its use. Rebecca Zahau was born in Burma and later moved to the United States, where she built a new life. Known for her kindness and beauty, she worked as an ophthalmic technician and was admired for her warmth and care. She had been dating Jonah Shacknai, a wealthy pharmaceutical executive whose sprawling Coronado mansion overlooked the Pacific Ocean. To outsiders, Rebecca seemed to be living a dream: love, luxury, and a new start. But behind the mansion walls, life was far more complicated. In the days before her death, tragedy had already struck the household, and that tragedy would cast a long shadow over everything that followed. Beneath the surface of paradise, a storm was already brewing. On July 11th, 2 days before Rebecca's death, Jonah's 6-year-old son Max suffered a catastrophic fall while under Rebecca's care. He tumbled over a railing inside the mansion, leaving him critically injured. Rebecca was devastated. She blamed herself, even as others reassured her it was an accident. For hours, she replayed the scene in her mind. But was her grief enough to explain what would happen next? Or had the fall set in motion a chain of events far more sinister than anyone realized? The shadow of that moment never seemed to lift. On the morning of July 13th, Rebecca's body was discovered by Jonah's brother, Adam, who was staying in the mansion's guest house. She was found on the balcony, her hands and feet bound, her mouth restrained. Police arrived quickly. The scene was bizarre. Not only was Rebecca tied, but strange black paint covered the door nearby with the words, "She saved him. Can you save her?" To many, it looked like staging, like someone wanted the world to believe a story that didn't quite fit. But investigators leaned towards self-harm, and that decision would ignite a firestorm. The mansion's silence suddenly seemed deafening. Authorities argued Rebecca had taken her own life in despair over Max's accident. They pointed to her emotional state, to stress, and to guilt. The bindings, they said, could have been self-applied, a desperate act meant to symbolize her punishment. The gag, they claimed, was not unusual in extreme cases. To some, the explanation was plausible. To others, it was impossible to believe. How could someone bind themselves so carefully, then climb over a balcony? Why the cryptic writing? The official ruling closed one door, but it opened 100 more. Every explanation raised new doubts, as though truth itself was slipping away. Rebecca's family rejected the self-harm theory outright. They insisted she had no history of such tendencies, and that she was strong, faithful, and optimistic even in difficult times. Her sister spoke publicly, declaring that Rebecca had been silenced. To them, the bindings and the writing on the wall weren't signs of despair. They were proof of a staged scene. For the Zahau family, this wasn't just about answers. It was about dignity, and they were determined to fight for Rebecca's truth. Their voices carried the weight of both grief and conviction. The words scrawled in black paint haunted investigators. She saved him. Can you save her? What do they mean? Was it Rebecca speaking about Max's accident, or was it a taunt from someone else? Handwriting analysis was inconclusive. Some thought the style resembled Rebecca's. Others believed it was deliberately altered to confuse. The message remains one of the case's strangest details, one that refuses to be explained no matter how many times it's studied, like a riddle left behind in the dead of night. Attention quickly turned to Adam Shacknai, Jonah's brother, who had discovered Rebecca's body. He was the only other adult on the property that night. Adam insisted he had nothing to do with her death, claiming he was asleep until the discovery. He called 911 immediately and cooperated with investigators. But suspicions persisted. Could he have been involved? Was it coincidence that he was the one to find her? Or was there more to the story than he revealed? To this day, his role remains one of the most debated aspects of the case. Whispers of doubt never fully disappeared. Rebecca's autopsy became a battlefield of interpretations. The official report supported self-harm, noting no clear defensive wounds. But independent pathologists hired by her family argued otherwise. They pointed to marks suggesting restraint and injuries inconsistent with self-binding. They insisted she had been overpowered, silenced, and staged. The clash between official findings and private experts turned Rebecca's death into a war of opinions, and the truth seemed to slip further from reach. Science itself appeared divided by shadows. The Spreckles mansion was a palace of glass and marble, but inside, it carried secrets. Tensions in Jonah and Rebecca's relationship, the shadow of Max's accident, and the presence of Adam created a volatile environment. To outsiders, the mansion looked like luxury. To those who lived there, it may have felt like a pressure cooker ready to explode. And when Rebecca's body was discovered, the mansion itself became a character in the mystery, a silent witness to a story no one could fully explain. Its walls seemed to whisper secrets no one could hear. The case captured national attention. The shocking details, the wealthy setting, and the unanswered questions made it headline news. Some saw Rebecca as a victim of despair, others as a victim of sinister circumstances. Internet forums dissected every detail. Talk shows debated theories. The fascination was fueled not only by the mystery, but by the clash between privilege and tragedy. The mansion became a symbol of both wealth and unanswered questions. It was a story too strange to ignore. In 2018, Rebecca's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Adam Shacknai. After weeks of testimony, a civil jury found him responsible for her death and awarded damages. But the ruling came in civil court, not criminal. Adam continued to maintain his innocence, and no criminal charges were filed. The split outcome only deepened the divide. Had justice been served in a civil courtroom, or had the true story still not been told? The verdict felt like an answer and a question at the same time. Rebecca's boyfriend, Jonah, was devastated by both his son's accident and Rebecca's death. He denied any involvement and was never considered a suspect. But some wondered, what did he know? Did tension in the days after Max's fall play a role? Jonah's wealth and influence added another layer of speculation. Did privilege protect the powerful while leaving Rebecca's story unresolved? The questions never stopped swirling around his name, even if no evidence tied him directly to the scene. His silence only deepened the mystery. Years later, Rebecca Zahau's death remains unsolved in the eyes of many. Officially ruled self-harm, yet endlessly debated, her case stands at the intersection of tragedy, wealth, and mystery. Her family continues to fight, demanding a new investigation. Authorities stand by their findings. And in that gap lies the haunting truth. Two narratives, both incomplete, both impossible to fully prove. Rebecca's story is frozen in contradiction, a case where closure has never come. Every retelling opens the wound again. Rebecca Zahau's name still echoes through true crime circles, courtrooms, and whispers of injustice. Was she a young woman overwhelmed by grief who ended her own life? Or was she the victim of something darker, silenced in a mansion filled with secrets? The answer remains elusive. What is certain is this: Rebecca's story forces us to question appearances, to challenge conclusions, and to remember that truth can be more complex than any official report. And so the question lingers, unanswered, unsettling. What really happened that night at the Spreckles mansion? Until it is answered, the case of Rebecca Zahau will remain one of America's most haunting mysteries, a riddle that refuses to fade. Help us uncover the next unsolved case. Hit subscribe now.